Prime Minister of Bangladesh urged the international community during the 74th United Nations General Assembly in 2019 and addressed 4 points solutions, incorporating clear political manifest by Myanmar, building trust, guaranteeing security and safety, and addressing root causes. The international community, namely United Nations General Assembly, United Nations Security Council, International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and a number of countries are making enormous efforts to pressurize the Myanmar government. But it seems they remain reluctant. It shows their disobedience to international norms and legal obligations. Myanmar must be accounted for committing genocide, human rights violations, and crimes against humanity.
Continuation of this situation indefinitely is certainly going to create security situations. It will have security ramifications. A disenfranchised population, completely in a hopeless situation, living in camps with no end in sight. Situation back home is not improving. They're not seeing, the perpetrators who killed them, who raped them, who drove them out of their homes, still there. As long as that situation is not addressed, that is bringing to justice those who committed those crimes against them, unless they can create the conditions conducive for their return, unless there is some real progress made in seeing to a durable solution to this protracted situation, this will inevitably lead to a security situation. Right now, we may be seeing a spike in crime and law and order situation in the camps and surrounding areas. And if this is not addressed, those crimes will then, flow out into bigger security concerns. And those security concerns will have political and security ramifications, again, not only for the camps and the surrounding communities and for Bangladesh, but also for the region as a whole. And as I said, international community will have to act with some urgency now. It has to act. Humanitarian assistance, fine, but that's like a band-aid. Unless they can address the root causes of the crisis, unless they can address the crisis back home in Myanmar, this problem is not going to go away. I mean, it's not only the Rohingyas. I mean, this time we are seeing other minorities who are being sort of dislocated and driven out from their homes in Myanmar. Soon it is going to engulf the whole region. So we believe if the root causes of the Rohingya crisis, as well as the crisis of other minorities in Myanmar are not addressed, no amount of humanitarian assistance will resolve the problem. And there must be tangible actions taken by the international community to make sure it takes tangible action in Myanmar to create the conditions for return. As I said, even in Myanmar right now, the Rohingya population there, a large number of them are still living in IDP camps. That's not going to create any confidence in them. Many of them are still living in IDP camps. They have been uprooted from their own villages and ancestral homes. So they are completely dislocated, uprooted in their own country. And of course, now we see all these diaspora in and around. In Bangladesh, 1.1, nearly 200,000 or so are in Malaysia and other countries in the region. And the status quo in Bangladesh of the situation is also not tenable for us. We are an overpopulated country. We have 1.1 million of them here. If we do not find a solution, I mean, those who are still in Myanmar, there's huge push factors for them there. And we may again have a situation where more may be coming in. Thus, if repatriation, voluntary, safe, dignified repatriation does not take place in the immediate future, the international community should then consider other viable options under international law. And one of those options is third country resettlement. That is possibly going to, it has happened for other populations like this, other situations globally, and perhaps that would be the only option then left, third country resettlement, because obviously for Bangladesh, local integration is not tenable. I will rest it there.
I very much sympathize with that. I wish it was possible, but I don't know. I don't know how those kinds of pressures can be brought to bear on a state like Myanmar, which is facing its own massive problems, and it's very serious political problems. I think it's not going to happen anytime soon. I wish it were otherwise, but I think that's a very difficult nut to crack. It's easier to try to deal with the refugees and to help them and help host population than to kind of force the Myanmar government to be judged to reckoning. So that's out of my pay.
For a permanent solution to this protracted and complex problem created by Myanmar, greater and direct involvement of the international community is imperative, particularly in the creation of a conducive environment in Rakhine, monitoring the repatriation process and subsequent reintegration of Rohingyas in Myanmar society, and building of mutual trust and confidence between the government of Myanmar and the Rohingyas. As Myanmar forces are the main security threat for Rohingya, they demand international civilian presence in Rakhine to guarantee security. The presence of international humanitarian workers is indispensable for the colossal task of repatriation and reintegration of 1.1 million people. It will also boost the confidence of the displaced Rohingya, who is subject to high security risk from Myanmar forces.
The academician all over the world, especially in America, where human rights is a very big issue. Very big issue. They have been always very vocal about the human rights. But here is in place in Myanmar where human rights are being just trampled, under the feet of the Myanmar junta. And that must be made, known to all. And the Western countries should stop doing business with Myanmar and must put in, especially P5. They have the means to put more pressure onto the Myanmarese government so that they take back these people as early as possible, and that will solve the main problem. The problem was created by Myanmar, and they must solve it as early as possible. And leave the government of Bangladesh alone. We do not want anybody, we have no intention to interfere in any country's internal affair. We don't do it, and we also stand for the zero tolerance of against terrorism. That's what the Honorable Prime Minister has said, and she has not only said, she has also meant it, executed it, and implemented zero tolerance against terrorism. So we will stick to those principles. Hopefully, Myanmar junta listens to the good advices and takes these people at the earliest.
Bangladesh hopes that United Nations will continue taking initiatives to instinct the member states as well as the international organizations to compel the Myanmar government for creating a conducive environment for the repatriation of Rohingyas. UN agencies and other international NGOs should provide their relentless efforts to make the repatriation process safe, secure and transparent. UN Security Council may stand boldly, imposing comprehensive sanctions to Myanmar and sending a political mission to force the government to take initiatives.